Now, the Shadow Justice Secretary, Robert Jenrick, has been challenging London's fare dodgers. Let's have a look.
Excuse me, do you think it's all right not to pay? Seriously, why do you go back through the barrier and pay? Do you want to go back and pay like everybody else? Do you think it's all right not to pay? Why don't you go back and pay? You can say off as much as you want, but everyone else has to pay. You're carrying a knife, do you say? Nearly 1 in 25 people using London's public transport aren't paying for it. So there's 8 officers down there, but 1 minute away, that gate's wide open. It's also just annoying watching so many people break the law and get away with it.
Or at least most of it.
Right, should we go over here to these guys here? Excuse me, gents.
Hello.
You're on camera, mate, you're banged to rights.
Just step to the side and...
All right, thanks very much, guys. It's the same with bike theft, phone theft, tool theft, shoplifting, drugs in town centres, weird Turkish barber shops. It's all chipping away at society. The state needs to reassert itself and go after lawbreakers.
I think we've all been there. I think we've all seen people just barge their way through barriers, but
Annoying is one of the worst
few of us have had the mettle to actually challenge the people who do. Delighted to be joined now by the Shadow Justice Secretary, Robert Jenrick, who, of course, starred in that video. Robert, what made you do it?
Well, good afternoon. Look, I was just fed up. I thought that fare dodging was out of control, whether it's down in London or across the country, and that no one was doing anything about it. And it was just one small example of a whole series of things that seem to be chipping away at society right now, whether it's graffiti, annoying people on the tube, playing loud music instead of wearing headphones, and more serious things as well, like shoplifting, mobile phone theft. It really feels like this stuff is getting worse, that the quality of life of everyone in the country is being diminished as a result, and the authorities have got to step up and do something about it, because normal hard-working people feel like fools that they're paying to go on the tube and then they see somebody just flagrantly breaking the rules like this. And in London, Sadiq Khan, our do-nothing, useless mayor, needs to actually get into gear, stop talking about legalising cannabis and get out on the streets tackling knife crime, shoplifting, fare dodging, all the things that are making quality of life so bad for Londoners right now.
I mean, this is a cultural decline, isn't it? I mean, even if TfL, the workers had more powers or there were more police in these stations, there clearly are people living with the attitude that I don't need to play by the rules. I mean, how do you enforce that? How do you change people's view of things?
Well, I think the authorities can and should do more. If you look at the Stratford station that I went to see on Saturday morning, there were 8 officers there. So it wasn't as if there was no one enforcing the rules. They were there, but they weren't doing anything about it. One was even watching as one of the gates was wide open as people were walking in and out, not tapping in or out. So law enforcement, whether it's the police or on public transport, needs to step up and actually do their jobs for once. But also, as you say, it's a broader societal problem than that. And I subscribe to the broken windows idea that if you allow small things to happen, more people will do them. It will get worse and worse. Some of those people will go on to do even more serious offences, and that eventually leads to a broader breakdown of trust, an explosion of crime, and it makes everyone's lives worse as a result. And you see that's happening in other cities and communities around the world, particularly in some big American cities. And you can also see in recent history when people have fought back against that. I mean, I think of when Rudy Giuliani was the can-do mayor of New York, and he really tackled issues like this and made everyone's lives better as a result. And that's what I want to emulate. So I'm taking up these causes like this, like tool theft, for example, like litter and fly tipping that I've done with GB News. And if we can get everyone in the country to step up and law enforcement to really take these small breaches of the law seriously, I think we can make everyone's lives better as a result.
What should we, just sort of ordinary people, do? Because the number of times I've been in a tube station in central London and seen someone, and I think one of the most irritating things to me is the way that they actually physically barge through the barriers. It's so brazen. It's actually relatively violent. It's quite intimidating. I've seen it before, and I've sort of tutted at people, like in a quite understated and far too English way.
You surprised me, Tom.
I've sort of stood there and I've sort of thinking, well, what should I do? I mean, should I have run up to these people like you? Because in the video, at one point, one of them seems to imply that he's carrying a knife. I mean, this stuff is serious.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't recommend other people to do that. I mean, do it if you want to, but obviously some of the people that I met were quite threatening, and so people need to look after themselves and take their own safety seriously. It's not for members of the public to be doing this. It's for those people who are paid to do this, and you can't have British Transport Police or TfL enforcement officers stood around doing absolutely nothing. On the video, there's even an example of an officer who's got his feet up on the counter, doom scrolling on Twitter, whilst people are walking in and out of the barrier without paying right next to the window where he sat. That's completely wrong. The public will be outraged at that. So it's for the people who are paid to do this job to step up and take action. Look, I'm a member of Parliament. It's my job to be out there raising these issues and shaming the authorities into action, but it's not for everybody else in society to be doing that.
So what you're saying is people should doom scroll on their phones less often and instead get out there and do things. That's an interesting allegory to take, perhaps not just in law and order, but in all walks of life.
Robert, may I ask you, were you expecting it to get such a response? I'm just looking on your Twitter account, and it's got 3.1 million views already, and I must say, does seem to be across the board support from what I can see. Anyway, I see you've already got a little message from TfL saying that fare evasion is unacceptable, and they have 500 uniformed officers, etc., deployed across the network. Were you expecting such a response?
No, I was absolutely blown away by the response. As you say, millions of people have been watching it and retweeting it. So it obviously must have tapped into something that people seeing this every day in their daily lives. And I say it's not just in London, it's all over the country. There was a YouGov poll that showed that 80% of people had seen others fare dodging. So this is happening the length and breadth of the UK. And it's not right. And it does make people feel silly that they are paying when they're going to work, going shopping, going to college, and they're seeing so many other people just breaching the rules. And so it's time to fight back, and hopefully this video can push the authorities to step up and do their jobs for once.
It does seem to be that TfL, Transport for London, have a policy that their own staff should not intervene when they see people fare dodging. They've said so much, I've seen people complain to them time and time again, and they've got this stock response that the employees of TfL are told not to intervene. Are you suggesting that the mayor, who I presume has powers in this area, I mean, he's responsible for TfL at the end of the day, should he call on TfL to change that non-intervention policy?
Well, I definitely want Sadiq Khan to step up and do something. I'm not holding my breath because that's not his style. But this is a major problem for London, as even his own statistics suggest that 1 in 25 journeys aren't paid for. And this is costing TfL, i.e. everybody in their fares, 130 million quid a year. I suspect it's much worse than that, given the sheer outcry that we've seen today. Many people see this in their daily lives. So those figures are probably a massive understatement. Sadiq needs to have a plan. He needs to get out there and deal with this issue, not waste his time talking about left-wing causes like abolishing, legalizing cannabis like he was this week. Deal with shoplifting, deal with knife crime on our streets, deal with fare dodging. That is what Sadiq needs to be focused on.
We haven't got much longer. I just want to ask you one question about what we saw earlier today. How do you feel that Keir Starmer is dedicating a whole press conference to the Reform Party, treating that party as the main opposition? How does that make you feel as a Conservative?
Well, look, I just want to make sure the Conservative Party is holding the Labour Party, this failing Labour government, to account as well as we possibly can. I think by doing that each and every day, then we can slowly begin to rebuild the trust and the confidence of the British public. That's my job. That's what Kemi, our leader, is working on, and what everybody in the Conservative Parliamentary Party should be doing right now.
OK, well, Robert Jenrick, Shadow Justice Secretary and vigilante, thanks indeed for joining us here on Good Afternoon Britain.
Yes, the Mayor in February did say that fare evasion on the Transport for London network was lower than many comparable cities in Europe and North America. Then in March, Sir Sadiq increased the penalty for fare dodging from £80 to £100, which he said was working as an effective deterrent.
Good to have a better fine. Not so good if it's not enforced.